Okay guys, welcome to Beware the Awakening, today called Deli Drones, featuring the new Steven's Metagross EX with the cross-boot ability, allowing to search your deck for a basic psychic or a basic metal or one of each and attach it to your Pokemon in any way you like. We're playing this card with our Granite Cave and Steven's Carbink along with our berries for the extra tank. We're also playing our heal cards, which include one Super Potion, one Dachsbun EX for the max recovery, with an Energy Recycler and a Super Rod to support its ability, one Moonlit Hill, one Medical Energy, and one Hero's Cape for the HP boost. We even have our Terra Dedenne EX for the final damage transfer with Tail Swap, since we have our Metagross's ability for the free acceleration. Finally, we've got one TM Evolution to counter Buddy's item lock, two Dudunsparce along with 3 Kofu, 3 Arven, and 1 Iono for the draws part, 1 Surfer and 1 Jet Energy for the switch, and 1 Mist Energy to counter effects of attacks. In an alternate list, we swapped our Dachsbun line for a Wigglytuff EX to counter decks that have fire attackers like Charizard EX with Baby Ho-Oh or Eevee Box. In this list, we also have an extra Jigglypuff to replace for the second Carbink, and a Luminous Energy instead of Energy Search. So that's all for the deck list. Now let's go for some gameplay and see how well this deck works. Okay, let's go for our first game with Deli Drones. We're up against Raging Bolt. Let's hope we can tank enough damage to survive their hit, because it's supposed to be a one-hit KO deck, but we got a lot of damage reduction cards. We got Jasmine as well for this game, but eventually I swapped it out for a Moonlit Hill or something. I can't remember, but I swapped it out just because I don't really get to use it often. Out of the 50 plus game that I played, I don't think I used it more than 2 or 3 times, and it's only like the early experimentations, like during the first few runs. But then close to the end, I don't think I get to play that card. Because if you don't get it early, I don't think it really helps much. I mean, if you play it late at the right time, it needs to be specific though. It needs to be precise. So it's kind of hard to search for that card. We don't have search engine. We only have draw support, drawing 3 cards at a time. I don't think it's that smart to play Jasmine for the Dunsparce build. If you're playing like a Pidgeot EX build or something, then maybe. But with the Dunsparce, I don't think it's that smart. So they got Noctowl for the free search. They're doing Fan Rotom for their Hood, benching their baby birdies. They got the Ogerpon on their bench, and they're playing Crispin with Sada probably for the acceleration. We got free acceleration, kind of like Charizard, except you get to use it every turn though. Metagross is pretty cool. It's almost like the old Vikavolt. You guys remember the baby Vikavolt that allows you to search your deck every single turn for a lightning and a grass or one of each, and attach it to your Pokemon in any way you like, which is so amazing because it's a baby Pokemon. Now EXs have that sort of ability, which is, you know, very limiting. That sort of ability being on a baby is supposed to mean that EX should have a lot more variety. Like EXs should be a lot more powerful. You should have that ability in addition to a powerful attack, not a 200 damage attack. Like 200 damage is pretty terrible without an effect, like come on. Or they can just simply enhance the ability by allowing you to put a card from your hand at the bottom of your deck and then draw 1 card, and if you do, you may search your deck for a basic psychic or a basic metal or one of each and attach to your Pokemon any way you like. So basically, like some addition to this sort of effect would be nice on an EX, especially a trainer's EX. I mean, come on now. That's why I find this game a lot more frustrating. There are cards now that works only on specific types, and now we have trainers Pokemon that works only on those Pokemon, which is so frustrating. I mean, I don't think it was that restricting for Sword and Shield. There are a lot of turns that end. There are a lot of abilities that end your turn though for Sword and Shield, which isn't really nice. But I don't think there was something so confining, you know, as to cards only working for specific trainers Pokemon. I mean, that's pretty bad, right? It's almost like the game wants you to just play the meta and don't use your brain at all. Like building your own deck, your own custom made deck is just not gonna work. So might as well just dump your brain in a bin and follow the system, because the system always works. We've created the system for you. Just shove it up your own ass. That's all you gotta do. But yeah, trainers Pokemon, in my opinion, is the worst thing of the format. I mean, if those abilities, if certain abilities like Marnie's Grimmsnarl is okay, obviously, but Marnie's Spikemuth is not okay. The Spikemuth Gym and Carbink, all of those cards that specify only to those specific trainers Pokemon, those effects are terrible, because then like if you don't get to use it for any other Pokemon, then it becomes so centralized. Then what is the bloody point of playing this game? I mean, I think this is a valid concern um, that really affects the evolution of mankind. Come on now, what is this crappiness? But whatever, we got our berries. You should be attaching the berry first before doing your Hero's Cape, because the berry gets discarded after it tanks the first damage, so you get to play your Hero's Cape after that. But then for this game though, I feel like the better strategy would be to attach the Hero's Cape from the very start, just because they are doing a one-hit KO strategy. If they play a OHKO deck, make sure to just abandon your berries, just because you might just have your first Metagross knocked out from the get-go, and then you have to spend a lot of resources, a lot of your trainer cards to basically get the second one going. You might waste a couple turns reviving your Metagross as well, which isn't great. So make sure to anticipate for that. I don't think we were careful for this game. We almost got knocked out. But yeah, you'll see a few turns after what I mean. Don't want to give any spoilers. So Raging Bolt is just gonna collect energies until it has enough to do the KO. But let's hope we can kill off something before they do that. And we have benched another Beldum just to prepare for the first KO. We need our Recycler though and the Candy, so it's not really that easy. Good thing about playing Ultra Ball with the berries is that if they don't play those specific types, you can easily just discard them with your Arven. You can Arven search for them, Ultra Ball for your Dunsparce to draw 3 cards, but then even though that does compress the deck in a way, you're removing the berries from the deck, you're also removing energies with your ability, essentially allowing you to draw out the right cards with the Dunsparce. I don't think it's enough though, because I've played it multiple times. I don't think Arven is that great. That's why we have 3 Kofu now. Kofu is a lot better than Arven. We used to have 4 Arven, 2 Kofu for this list, and only 1 Iono. Can't really fit in that many supporter cards as I would like. But yeah, I think we have enough though. Any more and it would be too much. That's the funny thing about this game. If you add an extra, just 1 extra copy, and it becomes like too many. If you have 1 less copy, it becomes not enough. It's so tight. There's barely room for anything. I always feel that when I build any deck. Like, I could be building a Charizard deck for all I know, and still don't have room for certain cards. So maybe that's just me, I don't know. Anyways, back to the game. We got our Rod to shuffle back our Mons. We're actually doing 2 Fidough for this list. Fidough isn't great because it's only 60 HP. There isn't a 70 HP one in format currently. And I'm not sure why. Just because it's a fairy, I guess. Fairies are terribly weak. But has cool effects and cool abilities. Oh well. So in the alternate list, we have the Jigglypuff, which is actually 70 HP. It is a fairy though, but it's a normal type as well, so I guess it gets to have 10 more HP. So funny thing about the Dachsbun list is that initially I had the baby Dachsbun, and I really wanted that to be the star of this deck because the baby Dachsbun actually prevents all damage from fire Pokemons. So I actually faced up against like a Flareon EX deck that plays Vaporeon and Jolteon, so like, you know, the elemental flare. They're basically playing all 3 different types of the evolutions. And then we had the Dachsbun in the active, but they knocked it out with the baby Eevee, like the Terra Eevee EX, with their Crispin and also their Burning Charge. So after that, we had to attack with our Metagross, and guess what? Flareon does the trick, so it doesn't work. The baby Dachsbun is completely useless, just because if they have other, you know, if they are not primarily using nothing but fire Pokemons in their decks to attack with, then the Dachsbun is gonna die. And if it dies with 190 HP, having the cape on, it's pretty easy to knock it out with 200 plus damage. If they're playing EXs that are not fire type, then you basically have to wall with your Metagross against their fire Pokemons, which is not gonna work, right? Even with your whatever fire Ultra Berry works against fire mons, reduce 60 damage after applying weakness and resistance. So that would be basically 400 plus, and they just need 280. 280 is a lot. That's like 500 plus damage if the Flareon hits with Carnelian. And if that isn't enough to knock out our Metagross EX, I don't know what will. So instead of the baby decks, we got instead our Wigglytuff alternate list. The Dachsbun one is focusing on walling with nothing but our Steven's Metagross, hoping against hope they don't have any fire attackers in their deck. But if you want to be more safe, go for the Wiggly one, because that card is pretty tough. We got 4 special energy for that list to help our Wiggly play on its ability for a basically 350 damage wall, 350 HP wall, 450 if you have the Hero Escape attached. So Carbink's ability does not work on Wiggly. Our Granite Cave doesn't either, but the berries do. The berries actually work on it. 60 less damage would mean it can tank 410, which is not bad. 510 if you have the cape. How amazing is that? So Stadium card is pretty important because we actually got screwed up pretty hard by someone playing Jamming Tower. I think it was a Dragapult game. I think it was the next game actually. But fortunately, we top decked our Granite Cave immediately after they played the Jamming Tower, and then they didn't actually remove it. So that was pretty scary. That's the reason why I added an extra Stadium card. So initially, the very first iteration of this list was basically 2 copies of the Granite Cape, and then I swapped it into just one copy, just because I don't think it's really that useful, especially when they just remove it on their turn. Playing their own Stadium card is super annoying. So eventually I cut it down to 1 copy and then decided against it, just because there are a lot of decks that play the Jamming Tower now, apparently. We actually faced up against a few Grimmsnarl players. Marnie's Grimmsnarl EX is out now, and that's the reason we swapped out the bloody Fidough, because Fidough doesn't actually stand a chance against that deck. Fidough doesn't stand a chance against Dragapult either. So if you have the Fidough on your bench, obviously it's gonna get knocked out while you tank with your Metagross, because they have Monkey Dory to basically transfer 3 damage counter onto your bench Fidough and then hit 30 damage with their Grimmsnarl on the bench. So that means 60 HP is not great in the current format. But even if you're up against a Snipe deck or a Dragapult EX, there is still a chance for you to win without having to bench your Fidough, because we have our Terra Dedenne, which allows us to do a surprise damage transfer from our active Metagross by doing a Jet. Or if you have the second Metagross, you can actually search your deck for 2 Psychic Energy attached to your bench Dedenne and then Jet it into the active. But we have a Surfer as well. We no longer have an item search for this deck, so you might have to retreat your Metagross after attaching the Psychic Energy from your hand if you don't have a second one, if you don't have the Jet Energy. If that happens, we have our Recycler, so we should be good to attach for the next turn onto our Metagross for it to attack once more. So anyways, I think I'll just leave you guys to it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. We'll see you next time. Have a great one, and bye guys!